Hello students, welcome to the fifth lecture of this course chemistry that belongs to first year of BTech syllabus. The course code for this particular code is CH101 for odd semester and CH201 for even semester. Okay. Now this is G Chakraborty. I'm assistant professor and teacher in charge of the department of chemistry, and let us start the seventh lecture of this particular course. Now, as you can see, this particular course is of chemistry and the module name here is periodic properties. Now, basically periodic table is something that you know from the very beginning of class 9. Okay. But before starting into the periodic table thing, let us discuss a little bit about the syllabus and little bit about what we have completed in the previous 4 lectures, right? So what we people have seen basically, this is the fifth lecture I've told you. So we have come across 4 lectures, and those 4 lectures are of the atomic structure. Now, if you remember your class 11 syllabus, first chapter was basic concepts of chemistry. If you really remove that chapter, then the second chapter, there is an immediate first chapter of class 11 was atomic structure, followed by the second chapter periodic table. Here also the same pattern is followed. In the syllabus, if you see carefully, there are basically 5 modules, among which the first module is of inorganic chemistry. Now, in this inorganic chemistry, we have come across 2 different chapters. One is atomic structure, another is periodicity, okay, or periodic properties. Now, atomic structure has 4 lectures that we people have done already in our class of atomic structure, like lecture number 1 to 4 we people have already done, so we have no problem about it. We have already completed it out, right? Now after atomic structure, this first 4 lectures will move to this particular thing which is today's lecture, that is periodic properties. But in the atomic structure, what we people have seen, because these are indeed modules of the same indeed chapters of the same module, so let us discuss first what in the atomic structure we people have done, right? So what we people have done in the atomic structure chapter, we have come across in the very beginning that the different atomic models prior to Bohr model. Okay, now prior to Bohr model means Bohr model is considered to be one of the best models of atomic structure, right? Now after Bohr model also there are many models that came. Before Bohr model also there were many models that came, right? It started in the first time when John Dalton proposed Dalton's atomic model, of which out of the 4 postulates, 3 were found to be wrong in the later half, right? In the upcoming years, it has been found that whatever Dalton has said, 3 out of 4 lectures were not correct. Okay, now that is not his fault, because at that time no sophisticated instruments were present. So whatever he had done at that time was very good and extremely brilliant for that particular time. Okay, now after that there came J.K. Thomson's model, where he has clearly explained that an atom is just like a watermelon or a pudding, in which the whole positive charge is concentrated throughout the atom and the negative charges are embedded in this sea of electrons, sea of positive charge, right? So basically the thing is like that, a big watermelon with the red part throughout the watermelon, and the seeds are embedded inside just as it is. They are in a haphazard fashion, they are located, right? But this idea was outthrown by another scientist who is one of the most important and well-known researchers of chemistry. He is none other than Ernest Rutherford. Now what Rutherford have shown, he has done one experiment called the alpha particle scattering experiment, and using that experiment he has clearly shown that yes, the atom is spherical or circular in shape, there is no doubt about it. But the problem is, whatever Thomson has told, that the whole atomic mass is concentrated, is distributed throughout the atom, he actually disagreed from this particular fact. Okay, and he proved that the total mass of the atom is concentrated in a very small place inside the atom at the center of the atom, right? How he had done it? Basically, he had performed the alpha particle scattering experiment, and in that experiment, he showed this particular thing. So, what was the experiment? He has taken alpha particle source, a thin gold foil, and some common articles like a screen, some lead slates, and all. Okay, and he has seen that whenever the alpha particles, the positively charged particles, they passed through the gold foil, some of them were deflected by small angles, some by large angles, very few were bounced back, and majority went undeflected. Okay, that means if the positive charge is going undeflected, that means there is very less positive charge present inside the atom and most of the space is empty. Now whoever has been reflected or bounced back are very small, which refers that the nucleus, which the nucleus term was first given by Rutherford only, the nucleus was very smaller in size and it is situated none other than at the center of the atom. Okay, this was clarified by Rutherford. Now after this we have seen in the next lecture that how Bohr model came, because Rutherford has one important limitation, that whenever the electron is moving in an orbit, this orbit term again was first given by Rutherford only. Whenever an electron is moving in an orbit, it will lose energy, right? So Maxwell and Rutherford's statements were conclusive to each other, right? They were not conclusive, sorry, they were anti-conclusive to each other because they didn't lead to a single conclusion, and whatever conclusions they led to, if we combine those two statements, then it seems that an atom is unstable, it will collapse, but it is not collapsing. So here the problem arises, and this problem was solved by Bohr, where he has explained that no, as far as an electron moves in a particular orbit, no exchange of energy takes place, right? So with that, this whole problem ended. Now after Bohr, we have seen quantum theory, we have seen quantum numbers, how to designate the position of electrons inside an atom, that we people have seen, and how what are the different laws, what is Schrodinger wave equation, what is Heisenberg uncertainty, everything we people have seen, right, in the last 4 lectures. Okay, now this is the 5th lecture, and this lecture is actually the first lecture, that is part 1 for periodic properties. So 5th lecture as a whole, and for the module 1 second part, that is periodic properties, this one is the part 1. Okay, so let us see what the lecture highlights are. You can see, as this is the basic lecture that we'll be starting with. So what we people are having, we are having number 1 is Duverner's law of triads, number 2 is Newland's law of octaves, number 3 is Mendeleev's periodic table, number 4 is modern periodic table or the Moseley periodic table, number 5 is merits and demerits of different periodic tables, and some laws and properties are also present in this particular lecture. Okay, these are the 5 different things that we people will be studying in this particular lecture. Now from the beginning, if we start, we will see Mr. Johann Duverner, who was a German chemist, as people can see. A German chemist, Johann Duverner, for the first time tried to find out trends among properties of elements. Now the question arises, why, what was the need, why there was a need to find out this. Let's try to understand. We are having around 120 elements in the periodic table right now. I'm talking about natural elements. From 108, some more have been included, right? So if 108 natural elements and about 25 or 30 artificial elements are present, if we are asked to just remember the names of each of this particular atomic atoms, then we'll say, okay, fine, each of this element, the name we can say, the name we can remember. But if you are asked that, okay, let us remember the name, the atomic weight, the ionization potential first, second ionization potential, the electronegativity, the density, the electropositivity, the specific gravity, the whatever other properties are there. If a person tells that, okay, you need to remember all this, what you will do? You will commit suicide. Even I would have done the same, right? So the scientist came with this particular problem around 200-300 years ago, and they find out that if it is possible, we should look for something which will be same for all the atoms, right? That particular thing is called trend. Okay, trends means a particular way of or a particular pattern of following one particular property. Okay, now how this happened? For the first time, the first attempt was taken by Mr. Johann de Werner. Now this is Dr. de Werner, as people can see. Okay, I don't know whether you people have seen it or not before, seen him or not before, but this is Dr. Johann, a brilliant scientist of that time. Okay, now in 1829 he noted similarity among the physical and chemical properties of several groups of three elements. So basically, he tried actually in his time around 1800, in the year 1800, very few elements were known. Okay, it's not like today that hundreds of elements are known. Very few elements are known, and Johanna tried to make something, make a table, make a trend in such a way that if we can group these elements into some two or three, right? If we can group these elements such that these particular elements follow a particular pattern of say atomic radius, follow a particular pattern of ionization enthalpy, electronegativity, like this. Okay, so he found out that if we make groups of three, then this is possible. So he made triad. Now what is the meaning of the word triad? This is 1, this is 2, this is 3. So three members, there is three elements, we make a group in order of increasing atomic numbers. You can see 7, 23 and 39, right? So increasing atomic numbers, we are making the groups in such a way that if we add the atomic mass of this element and this element and then divide it by 2, that means if we take the average of atomic mass of the first and the third element, then automatically we'll get the atomic mass of the second element. Let us try it out. Let's try it. 7 plus 39. What we are having? 46, right? If 46 is divided by 2, what we people will be having? We'll be having 23. That means if the atomic mass of first and last element are added, we are getting the atomic mass of the middle element. Here again I am saying we are speaking atomic mass, we are saying atomic mass, but at that time the concept of gravity was not known to humans, so there was no atomic mass, there was atomic weight. Okay, whatever work they have done, their thesis, it implies atomic weight and not atomic mass, right? But we are more familiar with atomic mass, so we have written atomic mass. But if you go for the main theory that de Werner has given, it is clearly mentioned that it is atomic weight. Okay, because that time weight and mass were same, right? Let us go to the next slide. And in the next slide, what we people having? We are having work from another great scientist who was very much fond of music. Okay, he is none other than Alexander Newlands. Okay, John Alexander Newlands. In some years after de Werner has made his triad, this particular person started making another table, right, using some trends, but he want to follow the same order, that is in order of increasing atomic weights. Okay, so what he had done in the year 1865, this particular person, who was John Alexander Newlands, who founded the law of octaves. Law of octaves. Now octaves means 8, that means it is something to do with music. Okay, let us see what it is. He arranged the elements in increasing order of their atomic weights and noted that every 8th element had properties similar to the first element. Let us see. In music, if we see the notes, सा, रे, गा, मा, पा, धा, नी के बाद क्या आता है? फिर से आता है सा. So every 8th element actually follows the order, right? For example, if we start from lithium, so after lithium, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th element is sodium. Okay, like this, everything is happening. Okay, so this is the basic way that how it works, right? Now, if we move further, what we people will be having, the relationship was like every eighth note that resembles the first in octaves of music. Newland's law of octaves seemed to be true only for elements up to calcium. So after calcium with atomic number 20 for the higher elements, this law was not valid. To be honest, Newland's law of octaves didn't get that much attention at that time, what it deserved maybe, because very close to the discovery of Newland, another major discovery came to the market, which is none other than the work done by Dr. Mendeleev. Okay, Dr. Mendelev's work was very much better and improved compared to that of the work done by Newlands. While Döbener initiated the study of periodic relationship, it was Mendeleev who was responsible for publishing the periodic law for the first time. So Mendeleev actually tried to publish the periodic law using which the periodic table was made, which is called Mendeleev's periodic table, as you people can see here. Okay, so it is a Mendeleev's periodic table that came for the first time as a periodic table, complete periodic table, okay, along with a periodic law. So what the periodic law is? The properties of the elements are a periodic function of their atomic weights, right? Here also it is written atomic weights because at that time mass was not there, mass concept was not there. So Mendeleev formulated his periodic law. His full name is Dmitry Ivanovich Mendeleev, okay? Dmitry Ivanovich Mendeleev, he formulated the periodic law for the first time, which is the properties of elements are periodic function of their atomic weights. What he has done, he arranged elements in horizontal rows and vertical columns of the table in order of increasing atomic weights in such a way that the elements with similar properties occupied the same vertical column on group. Mendeleev's system of classifying element was more elaborated than that of another scientist who worked on the same type of topic, that is Lothar Meyer, right? He is another great scientist, but actually Mendeleev's periodic table was of more importance because his work was extremely good at that time. Okay, so basically what he started, again, you might be observing that in all these arrangements done by Döbener, done by Newland, done by Mendeleev, done by Lothar Meyer, whoever has done it, they have always followed the order of increasing atomic mass, right? Elements were arranged in order of increasing atomic mass or atomic weights, you can say. What Mendeleev has done, Mendeleev has made his table in such a way that the things, the elements having same properties will be in the same vertical column, right? Now these vertical columns, you can see 8 vertical columns were present in Mendeleev's periodic table. These are the 8 vertical columns, as we people can see, starting from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Okay, 8 vertical columns were present. These 8 vertical columns were called groups, and this type of things which are present horizontally, they were called periods, right? Now, as you can see, hydrogen, lithium, potassium, these are the groups, that is group 1, group 2, like this. Okay, you can see Roman 1, 2 were there. And the main problem of this particular table was that there was no position of number 1 noble gases, number 2 isotopes. Now isotope is a thing, you know what isotope is defined as. It means elements that are having same atomic mass but different atomic same atomic number but different atomic mass, right? Now if different atomic masses are there, then they should have different rooms, but that is element of the same atoms of the same element. So how we can make them, how we can give them different rooms? Now this is very important, right? How we can do that? So basically the thing is that Mendeleev was unable to solve this problem of isotopes, and also he was unable to place the noble gases. Otherwise, if these two problems would have been solved, there would have been no modern periodic table. The Mendeleev periodic table would have been perfect. Okay, so let us move to the next slide. Now here it is clearly mentioned what the merits of Mendeleev's periodic table were and what the demerits of Mendeleev's periodic table were, because this periodic table was of extreme importance. So merits for Mendeleev periodic table is, Mendeleev's periodic table was one of the greatest achievements in the development of chemistry. So some of the important contributions of the periodic table has been listed here. Fine, let us see what the contributions were. Number 1, schematic study of elements. He arranged the then known elements in order of increasing atomic masses, considering the facts that elements with similar properties should fall in the same vertical column. Now this particular idea was very innovative at that time, and due to this particular idea, this particular innovative idea only, Mendeleev periodic table was of that importance. And This idea actually resulted in the formation of the modern periodic table. So it is of extreme importance, right? He arranged the then known elements in order of increasing atomic mass. This is okay, but he considered that these elements should fall in the same vertical column, which he called group, right? And later on, we have seen that in the modern periodic table also it is called group, right? Correction of atomic masses. The Mendel's periodic table could predict errors in atomic masses of certain elements, which were corrected. For example, atomic mass of beryllium was corrected from 13.5 to 9. Similarly, with the help of this table, atomic mass of indium, gold, platinum, etc. were corrected. This is another information that the atomic masses of different elements were corrected using the Mendel's periodic table. Again, Mendeleev predicted that the properties of those missing elements for other elements will be in the same group. Eka boron, Eka aluminum, Eka silicon means same type of element. Eka aluminum means elements which are similar to that of aluminum. Eka silicon means elements which are similar to that of silicon. Okay, these sort of things were explained by Mendeleev, which were not discovered at that time. So beyond their discovery, before their discovery, they were explained by Mendeleev. And the position of noble gases, see, helium, neon, argon were mentioned in many studies. However, these gases were discovered very late because they are very inert and are present in extremely low concentration. One of the achievements of Mendel's periodic table was that these gases were discovered. They could be placed in new group without discovering the existing order. See, I told you that there was no position specified for these noble gases in the Mendel's periodic table, but his periodic table was so smart. His periodic table was arranged in such a way that easily the newly discovered noble gases would be fit in that periodic table that was made by Mendeleev. Okay. Now, limitations of Mendeleev's periodic table. This is also very important fact that we need to do. What the limitations are? The first limitation is, in spite of many advantages, Mendeleev's periodic table has certain defects. Some of these were given below. Fine. What are the defects? Number one is position of hydrogen. Position of hydrogen in the periodic table is uncertain. It has been placed in 1A group with alkali metals, but certain properties resembles than that of halogens, so it may be placed in group of halogens as well. See, this fallacy is present in the modern periodic table also, that hydrogen is a unique element and it follows the properties of both the alkali metals as well as the halogens. So where it should be placed, with the alkali metals or with the halogens? There is a big dilemma regarding this. So in the modern periodic table, you might have seen that it is placed in a separate position at the top of the periodic table, and basically it is used as a mannequin to describe that what is atomic mass, what is atomic number, and so on, right? Okay, so it is placed in a different position. It is neither placed in group 1 nor placed in group 17. Okay. Number 2 is position of isotopes. I have already told you that isotopes are atoms having same element having different atomic masses. So according to Mendeleev, they should be placed in different places depending upon their atomic masses. For example, hydrogen isotopes with masses 1, 2, 3 should be placed in 3 different places. However, isotopes have not been given separate places in periodic table because they used to have similar properties. Now, this is another dilemma, that elements, atoms belong to the same element, properties are also same, but the masses are different. So how they can be placed? So there was a big problem regarding the placement of isotopes in the Mendeleev periodic table, and there was nowhere to place this particular elements, right? And last but not least is the anomalous pair of elements. In certain pair of elements, increasing order of atomic masses was not obeyed. Mendeleev placed these according to similarities in properties, but not in increasing order of atomic masses. See, now if the elements are placed not in order of increasing atomic masses, then Mendeleev himself has violated his own law, which was formulated by him only, that the elements were arranged in order of increasing atomic masses. So if that is not followed, then he has violated his own law, right? Okay, so these were the merits and demerits of Mendeleev. Now let us see what we are having. Do you know who this man is? This man is actually an English physicist. In 1913, there is early 90s, he has discovered a big thing. He is none other than Henry Moseley, right? And he has observed regularities in the characteristic X-ray spectra of the elements, and a plot of frequency versus X-rays gave him the concept of atomic mass. He thereby showed that atomic number is more fundamental property of an element than its atomic mass, right? This was one of the greatest invention in the period of in the history of the periodic table, when Henry Moseley used the X-ray diffraction spectra and showed that atomic mass is not that much relevant. so far as the atomic number is considered. Atomic number is a much better fundamental property compared to atomic mass. And with this discovery, what happened? A revolution came in the discovery of the periodic table. Every problem related to the isotope and all was solved, and this new periodic table was formed, which is called the modern periodic table. So Henry Moseley is the father of the modern periodic table, and basically it is the technology that helped him, which was not available at the time of Döbereiner or Mendeleev, right? So their works were also of similar importance. Now Moseley formulated the modern periodic law, which states that the physical and chemical properties of the elements are periodic functions of their atomic numbers. And I'm not explaining, as you can see, this is the periodic table that basically runs at this moment in our studies. Okay, this is the periodic table that we use, right? So Henry Moseley discovered this particular periodic table. Now in this periodic table, we need to know what the major things are, and these major things are none other than the periods and the groups, right? Now a periods and groups were already been, the terms have already been introduced by this particular person, Mendeleev. He has already given the concept of groups and periods. A period is a horizontal row of the periodic table. There are 7 periods in the periodic table, with each beginning at the far end, far left, and ending at the far right. New period begins with a new principal energy level with electrons. Period 1 has only 2 elements, hydrogen, helium. Period 2 have 8 elements. Periods 4 and 5 have 18 elements, and 6 and 7 have 32 elements. Now we can explain this in a very beautiful way. Period 1 contains only s orbitals. Period 2 contains s and p. So 2 plus 6 is 8, 2 for s and 6 for p. Period 4 and 5 contains spd. So d means 10 and previous 8 for s and p, so 18. And period 6 and 7 contain all spdf. So 2 for s, 6 for p, that is 8, 10 for d, that is 18, plus 14 for f, that is 32. Okay, it can be explained beautifully like this. Because the 2 bottom rows are separated, rest of periodic table to those periods. Fine. They are pulled out in order to make the table itself fit more easily into a single page. Yes, basically what happened, if you look at the periodic table, let us go to the previous page, what we are seeing. Let's see. As you people can see that in this periodic table, this particular elements, right? Let me do it in a better way. If we focus on these 2 elements, then we'll be seeing, right? I'm making it deep and deep. If we focus on these 2 elements, what we'll see, these 2 elements are lanthanum and actinium, right? Now this lanthanum and actinium, what we are having with this particular thing, lanthanum is 57, after that hafnium is 72. So where is 58 to 71? Here it is. They are called lanthanides, that is the elements following lanthanum. And second is actinium, that is after 89 you will see 104. So 90 to 103 is present right here. Thorium to lawrencium, this is cerium to lutetium. Okay. Now second one is called actinides and first one is called lanthanides. Okay. Let us move to the next page and continue our journey with groups. Now what groups are? A group is a vertical column in the periodic table based on the organization of the outer shell of electrons. There are total 18 groups. 2 numbering systems are basically available. One is the Roman, another is the Indian, Arabic, right? That designate the groups. Okay. Traditional system was used in US using letters A and B. The first 2 groups were 1A and 2A, and the last 6 groups were 3A to 8A. The middle groups were in B. Unfortunately, there was a slight difference in system place in Europe, and the IUPAC finally formulated the best system where no dilemma, no problem has been kept, and the groups were named from 1 to 18 using the Indo-Arabic numbers. So there is no dilemma, no problem regarding the numbering groups, because otherwise what will happen? There will be some problem regarding the numbering of these groups. Okay. So basically this was the main details of today's lecture, and in this lecture we people have seen the details of the discovery of different periodic tables, just like we have seen Döbereiner's law, we have seen Alexander's work, we have seen Mendeleev's work. Finally, we have seen the modern periodic table, right? So many things we have seen in this particular lecture. Now in the next lecture, we'll come up with some more things. There is a part 2 of the periodic properties lecture, and that will be lecture 6. So just let us wait for the next lecture. Till then, stay tuned, stay safe, and stay happy, and try to remember the periodic table. Okay, thank you so much.